So I guess to just kind of summarize the kid, it's written from multiple characters, and it really starts with Henry, who is a young boy who lives out west in the old Western times. And when the story starts, he loses his parents, and he makes the decision that as the oldest in the family, it's up to him and it's his responsibility to really care for his brothers and to care for the family farm. So he sets out to do that, and one of the ways he does that is he wants to hide the fact that they're alone, and he wants to keep people away from the farm. So he starts to write these stories about a quick draw kid um, that is arresting any criminals or anybody in the area, and his plan is that that will keep people away from the farm. Um, these stories quickly become very popular. They get published in what's called Gunslinger magazine, and they start to circulate through all of the mercantiles all throughout the East and all throughout the West. Meantime, Snake Eye Sam, who is the meanest criminal in the West, gets wind of these quick draw stories about the kid, and he decides that he is going to break out of jail to head west to take on the kid with the goal of defeating the kid and becoming the most popular criminal in all the West. Um, as this is all happening, the kids' stories grow and grow and become more and more popular. And Henry finds out that they are actually doing the opposite. He was starting to write them to keep people away, but people are actually coming to town in search of the kid, and it's actually attracting people to the area. So he makes the decision to stop writing the stories. This spurs his editor, Hey Bear, who is a city slicker from Philadelphia, to head west to decide and to figure out why have these stories stopped. So the book is really a story of Henry trying to keep the farm together, Snake Eye Sam traveling west to become the most popular criminal in all the West, and A Bear, the editor, heading west to figure out what's going on with his number one client. And the story all kind of comes to a head in the streets of Destiny, Colorado, where the kid or Henry is staring down Snake Eye Sam, and they have to figure out how to get out of this situation and write one last kid story. Yeah, I think absolutely. I loved reading as a kid. Now it probably dates me a little bit, but I loved Ramona series. I loved Judy Blume, Tales of the Fourth Grade Nothing, Roald Dahl, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I just read these books over and over and over again, and loved them. And at some point, I ran out of these books, and I was going to the library, and I wanted to keep reading, and I wanted more, but there just weren't these stories that I was interested in. And the librarians were giving me different kinds of wilderness stories or adventure kinds of stories, and that's just not what I was in. And I ended up being one of those boys that just stopped reading because there weren't the books that I was interested in. So I think in the back of my mind, ever since then, there's always been this idea of writing stories for kids to keep, especially reluctant boys, to keep them reading, keep them into stories, engaging them. Because I think we lose too many boys around that middle school age. And I think I always wanted to write some books that would engage them and keep them going. Yeah, I am definitely the editor, Hey Bear. That was wow, it was like writing myself. It was one of the strangest things writing his characters. Um, hey Bear is just, he is not an outdoorsman. He is a city person, and that's exactly like me. He's always trying to do the right thing, but somehow it never quite turns out. And he's just kind of this dorky, sneezy city person who's trying to do the right thing by heading west and just finds himself in all of these misadventures. And as I was writing it, I was just like, that's me. That's the story of my life. And I think it was one of the strangest experiences writing Hey Bear. Great question. And I think my favorite character to write was certainly Snake Eye Sam. And I think it's for the exact reason you just asked me in the last question. Hey Bear was so like me. It was almost like writing an autobiography. But Snake Eye Sam was so far away from me. And I really, really got into his character of how do I create this character that seems evil on the outside and is such a strong antagonist. But I also wanted to look internally and say, but what's driving that? How does he get there? How does he end up like that? And can I ultimately make the reader sympathetic to his story? And I think because Snake Eye Sam was so different than me and is such a great antagonist that it really challenged me to look deeper and try to figure out how to make him sympathetic. And I think that's why I loved writing the Sam character. Well, I think I was certainly influenced. That I have always loved westerns. Growing up, my dad always had a Clint Eastwood western on the weekends, and I read Louis L'Amour stories, and I think I just always liked the Old West, and our family vacations were always to Yellowstone and to the Old West. So I think I was always intrigued by that and those stories. And then there's certainly history has influenced it. I was a high school history teacher, so history's always been a part of what I've enjoyed and what I've liked. And I think my background of all of those Western movies and my background of being a history teacher certainly influenced this novel. But I think when I set out to write this book, I didn't really want to write a history book or even really a Western. I wanted to write something that kids today could resonate with. And I really think, even though this takes place in the Old West, it's something that kids will understand because the themes fit with what they're dealing with now. It's about fitting in, it's about the importance of family and holding on to family. Um, Trying to do the right thing, but ending up getting off track as you're trying to do the right thing. I think those are things that resonate with kids even today, and it just happens to be a story that takes place in the 1800s in the Old West. But the emotions, the feelings, the intentions, the motivations of the characters are very resonant even for kids today. Is it too easy to say I just want them to have fun with it? Like again, I started this by saying that's why I became a reluctant reader. I just wanted these fun stories, and I ran out of them. And I think my goal here was just to provide some fun for kids and allow them to get away from the hassles of school and the things that are going on, and they can just find themselves in other characters. um, so I think I want them to have fun and to have a book that they remember. It's really interesting that I vividly remember all of those books that I read in elementary and middle school, but I couldn't tell you what I read last week. Those are the books that really resonate with me. And if a if there's a boy out there that can just pick up this book and have fun with it and remember it 20, 30, 40 years later, um, then I would consider that a success.